I used to think my beliefs were solid, like stones I carried inside me. But one day I asked myself a strange question. What if the things I believe are not really mine? What if they were given to me by fear, by habit, by the quiet pressure to fit in? This thought hit me like a cold wind. It shook my focus, my motivation, even the way my mind chased dopamine or avoided the tired weight of laziness. I realized I was living inside beliefs I never chose, and that truth felt more frightening than doubt itself. I noticed how easily my attention jumped from one idea to another, how my learning was shaped less by curiosity and more by the comfort of staying the same. I wondered, do I believe because it is true or because it is safe? It felt like standing in front of a mirror and finally seeing the cracks. Belief wasn't a stable ground. It was a trembling story I kept repeating to feel steady. Nietzsche whispers that every belief hides a will, a push, a drive, a desire to make the world less painful. William James answers that belief is often built by action, that we act as if long before we truly understand why. Between them, I felt torn. One voice calling me to courage, the other calling me to responsibility, both asking me to wake up. And so the question deepened. If my beliefs are choices, then who is the one choosing? This is where the terror begins, and also where the real story starts. Thank you for sharing this space with me. If these ideas speak to you, I would be grateful if you choose to subscribe or leave a small comment. It helps me continue creating these quiet, human explorations. I never expected my certainty to break in such a small, ordinary moment. I was brushing my teeth, half asleep, when a thought slipped into my mind like a thin blade. What if everything I believe is borrowed? I froze, toothbrush hanging from my mouth, as if someone had opened a door inside me and cold air rushed in. It felt brutal, like the ground under my feet had quietly dissolved. I had always imagined my beliefs as pillars, strong and personal, but suddenly they looked like shadows, passed down by family, culture, fear, and the quiet wish to avoid being wrong. I felt a strange pressure in my chest, not pain but exposure, the feeling of being seen by my own mind for the first time. I walked around my apartment in silence, noticing how every belief I carried had a story behind it. A teacher's words, a friend's influence, a childhood rule. Not one of them felt fully mine. It was like realizing my inner voice spoke with borrowed accents. I felt both ashamed and curious. If these beliefs weren't chosen, then maybe they weren't stable. Maybe they could crumble with a single question. And if they could crumble, what did that say about me? As the morning light moved across the floor, I sensed a deeper dilemma rising. Do I want the truth, or do I want comfort? Nietzsche's voice stirred inside me like a spark. He once wrote about tearing masks from the face of life, even if the truth underneath burns. His words felt like a challenge, a dare to stop hiding behind the soft habits of thought. But then William James's gentle clarity stepped in, reminding me that belief grows through action, through the tiny choices of everyday life. I stood there between them, one voice fierce, the other steady, and I felt something important shift. Belief was not a fixed object. It was an activity, a living process. And in that moment, I understood something terrifying and freeing. If belief is something I create, then I can no longer pretend it controls me. I am the one holding the weight. If this moment touched you, I'd be grateful if you left a small comment or subscribed. Your quiet support helps me continue sharing these human stories. That day became heavier as the hours passed. I went to work, trying to act normal, but inside I felt like a house whose walls had quietly shifted during the night. Every thought felt uncertain. Every belief felt like it had a loose wire. While typing emails, I kept remembering a moment from years before, a day when my belief in myself collapsed without warning. I was standing in a crowded hallway after receiving news I didn't want to hear. Something I had worked for, something I thought I deserved, slipped out of my hands. I remember leaning against the wall, pretending to check my phone. but really I was hiding the feeling of something breaking inside me. I told myself I was fine, but the truth was sharper. I didn't trust myself anymore. Walking home that evening, I felt the same old crack inside me reopen. The memory had weight. It reminded me that belief is fragile, almost glass-like. We carry it carefully until life bumps us, and then it shatters in quiet pieces. I remembered how, after that failure, I stopped taking risks. I avoided difficult tasks. I talked myself out of opportunities. Not because I didn't want them, but because a hidden belief whispered, "You're not enough." I never questioned that belief. I simply obeyed it, as if it were a natural law. It shaped my choices, my habits, even my posture. I lived inside a story I didn't realize I was telling myself. As I reached my apartment door, the thought hit me again, but deeper. What if my beliefs were not built by truth, but by fear? And worse, what if I kept them alive by repeating them through my actions every single day? James's words echoed gently. We do not wait for belief to guide us. We act our way into belief, step by step. It made sense. I had been acting like a smaller version of myself, and so I became one. But Nietzsche's fire rose too, reminding me that belief is also a test of strength. The strength to face the world without hiding behind excuses or old wounds. Standing there in the hallway, keys in my hand, I felt something shift again. Not a solution, not clarity, just an opening, a space where a new belief could grow if I dared to act differently. Thank you for walking through this memory with me. If it speaks to you, I'd be grateful if you liked or subscribed. Your quiet support helps me continue unfolding these simple human stories. When Nietzsche's presence rises inside me, it never feels gentle. It feels like stepping into a cold room where every mirror shows the part of myself I try to avoid. That night, after the long day of doubt, I sat on the edge of my bed and felt his silent question press against me. Do you want the truth or do you want the comfort of your old beliefs? It was not a punishment. It was a challenge. Nietzsche believed that every belief hides a will, a force that pushes us forward or holds us back. And as I sat there, I saw how many of my beliefs were designed to protect me from the sharp edges of life. They were shields, not truths. They kept me safe, but small. I imagined Nietzsche standing in the doorway of my mind, arms crossed, waiting. His presence felt like fire, not destructive, but cleansing. He pushed me to consider the possibility that I feared my own strength. That I preferred beliefs that made life predictable instead of beliefs that demanded courage. He didn't ask me to be fearless. He asked me to stop lying to myself about why I believed what I believed. But then another voice appeared. Softer, warmer, steadier. William James didn't challenge me. He guided me. He reminded me that belief grows from action, that I don't need to feel brave to act bravely. He suggested small steps, tiny experiments, gentle shifts. Where Nietzsche demanded honesty, James offered direction. Together they created a strange tension inside me. One voice said, "Stand up." The other said, "Take one step." And for the first time, both felt right. I sat there in the dim light, feeling the weight of these two forces. I realized belief is not something we simply hold. It is something we build. Nietzsche pushed me to tear down the weak parts. James showed me how to rebuild with care. The conflict between them wasn't a battle. It was a balance, a furnace and a workshop, a storm and a map. As I breathed in the quiet, a deeper truth emerged. Belief is a choice, but the strength to choose must be trained. And maybe this was the most terrifying truth. Not that belief shapes my life, but that I am responsible for shaping the belief. Thank you for being here. If this moment resonated with you, a simple like or comment would mean a lot. Your small support helps me keep creating these soft human reflections. A picture began forming in my mind. Simple, almost childlike. I saw myself carrying a small lantern through a dark forest. The lantern was my belief, The forest was my life. And the terrifying part was this: the light didn't come from the lantern itself. It came from how I chose to hold it. If I lifted it high, the path widened. If I held it close to my chest, the world shrank into a narrow circle. And if I dropped it, everything went dark. This image stayed with me, glowing softly behind every thought. It showed me something I had never understood before. Belief is not the light. Belief is the way I use the light inside me. I realized I had been walking for years with my lantern pointed down, afraid to see too far ahead. Nietzsche pushed me to raise it, even if the wider path scared me. James reminded me that I didn't have to run through the forest. I only had to take one steady step. And suddenly the metaphor felt alive, breathing, shaping the way I understood myself. My belief wasn't broken, it was underused. Then 4 simple techniques rose from this image, like small tools left beside a campfire. First, lift the lantern. Notice when I am shrinking my world with old beliefs. Ask myself gently, what am I avoiding right now? Second, walk one step. Take a small action that matches the belief I want to grow. Not tomorrow, today. Third, check the shadows without fear. See where my belief gets shaky, not as a failure but as a signal. A place that needs light, not judgment. Fourth, hold the lantern steady when the wind rises. When doubt comes, breathe. Stay with the feeling. Let the belief tremble without dropping it. As I pictured these steps, something inside me tightened, then softened. It felt like the emotional climax of a long, quiet battle. I understood now that my belief wasn't something I found in books or borrowed from voices around me. It was something I formed moment by moment, through courage and through action. And the deepest shift came when I finally whispered to myself, I am allowed to choose a belief that makes me stronger. The forest didn't disappear, but the path widened, even if just a little. Thank you for walking this part of the journey with me. If this image or these techniques touched something in you, I'd be grateful for a soft like or a small comment. Your kindness helps me keep creating these quiet stories of becoming. In the quiet after everything I faced, I felt something settle inside me. Not certainty, not confidence, but a softer truth. I realized my beliefs were never meant to be walls or cages. They were meant to be doors. And doors only matter when I choose to walk through them. I stood there inside myself, calm for the first time in a long while, and I felt the weight of my own will. Not heavy like a burden, but heavy like responsibility. The kind that makes you straighten your back and breathe a little deeper. I understood then that every belief I carry is a seed. Some I planted without knowing. Some were planted in me by others. Some grew wild. Some grew crooked. But now I could see them clearly, and in seeing them I found a strange freedom. I could decide which seeds to water. Nietzsche's fire stayed with me, reminding me not to run from the hard truths that shape my strength. James's calm voice remained too, guiding me to build my belief through small, real actions. And I felt both forces inside me, the storm and the steady hand, pushing me toward a new kind of honesty. As I rested in that quiet, a gentle image appeared. Me standing at the edge of a field at dawn. The world still half dark, half light. My lantern in my hand. And the path ahead not promised, not safe, but open. The terrifying truth about belief no longer scared me. It felt like a beginning, a place where I could choose who I was becoming step by honest step. I didn't become fearless. I simply became willing to walk, willing to try, willing to shape the belief that shapes my life. And maybe that's all any of us can do. Hold the lantern a little higher, take a breath, and move forward into the day we are creating. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. If this closing touched you in a quiet way, I'd be grateful for a soft like, a gentle comment, or a simple subscription. Your support helps me continue creating these human reflective stories.